Hello friends, and welcome to the 7th episode of our Chips Challenge playthrough. By the time you're hearing these words, I'll be back to teaching. Like I said in last week's intro, teaching takes a good portion of my time, but it's very important to me. I want to do well in the classroom and on my various quote-unquote content creation endeavors. To ensure schedule flexibility, especially during midterms and finals, my goal is to get about 2 weeks ahead on producing the Chip stories. Right now I'm ahead by about, well, not at all. This semester's maximum for getting everything done is no more naps. Okay, time for spoilers from last episode. Wow, that's a lot of people. I expected our population to grow stepwise, picking up a new character every few episodes. But suddenly we have 5 residents of the base and occasional visitors too. My feelings about this growth are mixed. It's of course great to have additional pawns. Many hands make light work and so on. No doubt Chip's future base defenses will go much better with contributions other than Bebo's judgy comments. That said, I do worry a little bit about the story. So far I've really enjoyed getting to know Chip and Bebo. With only the 2 of them in the colony, we've been able to explore their personalities and their interactions, and I've been able to keep a close watch on what they're doing from moment to moment. Because so little else has been happening, I've been able to record almost all the playthrough's important moments. With more characters, I worry I may begin to miss something, because more than one interesting thing is happening simultaneously. To avoid this issue, I'm going to try playing more slowly, pausing more often, ensuring the camera is focused on where the action should be happening. If I wind up missing something essential though, I promise to draw you a stick figure reenactment in MS Paint. The other potential issue with an increasing number of colonists is keeping their personalities alive. When I stream Rimworld over on Twitch, I often note that one feature of larger bases is how they become like an ant farm. As all the work gets done, the player increasingly worries less about the individuals and more about the life of the colony in general. In this series, I'm hoping to avoid this shift in level of detail, instead keeping our focus squarely on the attitudes and hopes of our characters, though I expect some of them will sometimes fall into the background. Speaking of which, poor Paul. He really deserves a fuller personality than shouting rhymes of his name. If he winds up joining the base permanently, I'll recast his actor, ensuring he becomes more than comic relief. For now though, he's Paul. Rhymes with Paul. Paul. One last thing. In every introduction so far, I've asked directly for engagement with the video, and you all have delivered. Likes, comments, organic discussions with one another, and so much else. I love to see it, and I'm appreciative of your helping bring attention to the channel. I realize though that I could do more to spur conversation. Your random messages on any topic are still welcome and great, but I'll also end today's video with a question about what we should do next. By answering, you'll help me shape the ongoing story of Chip and his friends. In this way, the playthrough will become not just mine, but really ours. Okay, that's enough blather for this week. Thanks for spending your time with me as always. Enjoy the episode. Even the smallest step forward in understanding and controlling the world is an accomplishment. After days of toil, the colonists celebrate a real breakthrough, the passive cooler. The obvious question then is what to research next. The residents huddle up and consider their options. Chip again suggests the impossible, robot helpers or maybe some indoor plumbing. From the next room, Jefferson continues to moan about green plants. No doubt she's expressing gratitude for their healthful, fiber-rich meals. Here mentions something about more comfortable chairs, the nudist Bebo sarcastically recommends clothing, and Paul prepares to speak. I'm Paul, rhymes with build a wall. Y'all, Paul. Chip narrows his eyes. There's something more to Paul than it first seemed. But he's right. Stone cutting would allow them to construct durable rooms and improve their defenses. With this new technology, the kitchen would finally get its attractive floor, and privacy would be possible for everyone. Bebo sets to work. Stones. Travelers have told me of sitting in smoke and being stoned. He leans over the nearby torch, inhaling the smoke deeply. His burning lungs and hacking cough suggest this was the wrong research hypothesis to test first. Night comes, and so does sleep, and with it, dreams. Chip imagines flying high above the base, feeling no worries while among the clouds. Bebo dreams of here, and here dreams of a military attack vehicle crewed by alligators. They're bearing down on the base, snapping their jaws while yelling, "Are you even wearing clothes?" She awakens. The images are gone, but the feeling remains. Something's wrong. A psychic drone affects her and Jefferson. This won't be a good day at all, so here stays in bed. But Chip's awake, feeling fine, and he's already chatting with Jefferson. While he's flooding the air with whatever topics come to mind, she's still worrying about Psychite. The drone has her increasingly worried about her drugs. Finally, Chip pauses and asks, "Do you believe it?" Jefferson nods emphatically. Yeah, just help me." Chip, missing the point, agrees. Yeah, helping's what people like us do. With Jefferson agreeing to eat people no longer, it's time to see if she'd like to become a full member of Chip's colony. We move from conversion to recruitment. Chip has already learned a good deal about telling stories and persuading people. Now he needs to work on actually listening, or Jefferson's gonna die. Inside, here's Beck at the research station, and she playfully teases Bibo about his initial investigations in stonecutting. "Next you're gonna tell me we should play a game of chess. That rook must have something to do with rock." Bibo, bouncing his head, replies, "It might. You must always investigate the unknown. For instance, what's beneath my turban?" He remembers his earlier words, that he only shows that to his lovers. She feels a flicker of desire, surely to continue her work. While the two of them continue to play with their words, Chip works diligently, preparing to build a second desk for research. Bibo said he wanted to assist with scientific investigations, but Chip suspects he just wants to spend more time with here. Fine, Chip thinks. I'll build his desk out here. See how they like talking through the wall. As the desk is outdoors and the outdoors is made of dirt and thus dirty, it won't contribute much to the research effort. But it's better than nothing. Paul and Chip find themselves working near one another, and Chip decides to be brave. "Paul, are you okay? The way you talk, it throws me off. I'm Paul. Rhymes with appall. Chip cuts him off. "No, really. Why do you do this?" Paul winks. "Just messing with you." Chip decides the Rimworld is populated by some seriously weird people. Paul continues. "I was serious about the wall, though. Y'all are sitting ducks out here. Where should we build?" Recalling what he'd seen on his travels around the map, Chip gestures to the north and to the west. Maybe they could secure this area, building in the space between the nearby hill and the southern river. While describing their territory, Chip sees dark eyes peering from the brush. A predator beast is out there. He shudders and then visits Jefferson, asking about their struggles and health. Feeling the vibe is finally right, Jefferson dishes. "Yeah, I'm feeling real bad, and it's real hard, you know? Like, I need my feel good, or I just don't feel good, man." Chip affirms Jefferson's words. It's good to feel good. This conversation is going nowhere, but at least Chip is improving their relationship. Hard at work, Paul considers the best way to construct new buildings. He'd prefer to pile up stable stones, but he knows that Hera has barely started on this research. Inside, she's struggling to think. It's hard to remember much when the psychic drone forces words into her head. Forgetful. You're slipping. Stupid. She frustratedly mumbles about the appropriate ratio of sand and water for making masonry mortar. Outside, Bibo holds up a small rock and attempts to inhale its odor. Still not stoned. Because the tribe can't yet make their own stone blocks, Paul thinks they should disassemble all the nearby ruins. Repurposing these materials will aid in construction, though Hero will be upset at the loss of potential knowledge. These ruins once meant something to somebody, and taking them apart will make that impossible to discover. "No way to look but forward," Paul says to himself, planning his next move, thinking of the substantial deconstruction work ahead. As Paul prepares to disassemble the ruins, Bibo calls out happily. "Mr. Chip, I've continued aiding in preparing your senseless monkey massacre. It is time for you to prepare your place of sleeping." Chip lets out a quiet little cheer as he returns to base, only to hear another voice chime in. "How about you make that one for your good buddy Paul, in honor of our little jokes, huh?" Chip rolls his eyes. "Fine." There's still plenty of time to gather up more leather today. On his way inside, Chip notices the earlier seen western eyes are clearly attached to another panther, which is clearly coming closer to their home. They'll have to do something about that soon, though only after the current rainstorm passes. There's no point in dangerous hunting if their wet fingers keep sliding off the bowstrings. As Chip finishes this next bedroll, he nods at his craftsmanship. The stitching is straight and the leather unrumpled. He's improving, and this sleeping bag seems especially comfortable. He's glad his grudging generosity towards Paul has been rewarded, though with the rain it'll be difficult to hunt more monkeys. Perhaps tomorrow his patience will be rewarded too. The storm rages, thundering, and the night grows dark. The psychic drone stops as suddenly as it started, and here again feels mentally sharp. At once she remembers, 1 part water, 2 parts sand, and she needs a binder too, concrete or lime. There's plenty of limestone nearby, just underneath their feet. She smiles. I still got it. Everyone returns indoors for the night, only Chip snoring and drooling onto the bare floor. It's still pretty warm indoors, so maybe it's time to start thinking about passive coolers. They're not needed at the moment, but it'll be good to have them finished in case of heat waves. 1 for the main room, and 1 for Jefferson. By the next morning, the rain has abated, and Chip finds himself awake first. While the others snuggle deep into their skins, he hops up and stretches out the soreness. Over the other residents' sleepy sounds, he realizes something is missing. No more rain. Thus, it's time to keep them safe by hunting that panther. While he could do it by himself, he thinks, it'd be better to make this a team effort. So, first to here and then to Paul, but definitely not to Bibo. He awakens the others, asking them to equip the stored bows and meet him outside. They plan to, but first, a healthy breakfast. Chip moves outdoors and notices the panther is now right next to the door. He resists the urge to jump, instead whispering, Good kitty, no murderers of your family here, almost time for you to sleep. The others then join him, and Paul gets an idea. Let me go around the other side, see if we can confuse the beast. Here agrees. This cat will be curious in every direction. Merely a moment later, Paul calls out, Code black. Chip shakes his head. What? The eagle flies into the sunset. Here interjects. Panthers can't understand English, Paul. Oh, okay. Ready. Kill it. But first, your regularly scheduled commercial break. Do you ever find yourself stuck on a Rimworld and wanting to go home? Contact High Stellark Airlines. We're the Ascentiest. Here and Chip shoot together, while Paul holds back. Chip isn't quite sure whose arrow hit first. It was his, but he congratulates himself on at least scaring the animal. The panther snarls and turns to fight, furious that it didn't eat Chip when it had a chance. The arrows came from the north, but a black streak strides east. It smells Paul, and he fires, missing. The other shots miss too. Paul hightails it, and the panther races through a trap. Thwap! Paul continues to run, moving into another fortified position. Chip and Here begin to run to his position, and Paul cries out, Hurry up, this thing's gonna maul. That rhymes with Paul. Me! Gromby trumpets her disapproval at the ordeal, and the panther athletically dives over the trap. Again Paul retreats. The panther bears down, growling its hatred. It leaps forward, teeth bared, and the trap snaps shut. Paul spits on its corpse and begins using it for target practice. When the others arrive, panting, Paul winks. Didn't see you two do much out there. They laugh and join in Paul's archery game. Now indoors, Paul calls out, Bibo, I killed a panther in the least peaceful way you can imagine. There was blood everywhere. I nearly painted my skin with it. Don't say a word, just get chopping. Bibo, chastened, says only, Find peace eventually, Mr. Paul. Here's touched by Bibo's careful words, and she wants to cheer him up. Maybe you can use its skin to make some shiny boots. Might be fun to wear when we play tonight. Bibo catches her drift at once. I'll have to show you what's under my turban. Both of them feel a warm glow of happiness. Now they're a little less alone out here. Still smiling, Here finds her way to the research bench. She writes, Prepared stones are so strong, like my Bibo. They don't need covering to weather the elements, just like him too. And they're oh so hard. She gulps and crosses that last bit out repeatedly, noting, Test samples of nearby sediment to determine strongest construction material. Oblivious to all of that, Chip prepares to make good on a promise to himself. Today he'll be getting his bedroll. He just needs the skin of another monkey. He approaches a fresh troop, stumbling back at once. He's not the only hunter here. Is that a snake? Chip screams in terror, loudly enough it can be heard all the way back at base, though Bibo and Paul don't hear it. They're too busy bickering about the right way to butcher a panther. Here, though, is out the door, running as fast as she can, and she hears something else, something closer. A wildfire blazes. It must have been started by last night's storm. Time slows as Here takes stock of what she sees. Back in the Imperial cities, they'd have firefighting robots and foam poppers. Somebody would know what to do. Their little home here, though, is partially made of wood, and they only have each other. Chip screams again, and Here shouts back, a loud call from the depths of her lungs. "No time for anything but getting here! Our house is gonna burn down!" At that, Chip snaps back to himself, sprinting towards Here's cry. In passing, he grabs a dead monkey, stealing one of the Cobra's trophies. Are snakes smart enough for grudges? Somehow, a group of strangers amble by the blaze, joking about porcupines and cherry trees. Apparently those burn well, and fighting a fire is as tough as handling the spiny beasts. They wander along, ignoring Here's alarm. Perhaps they imagine this is theater, performance art, or maybe they have somewhere important to be. Either way, what jerks. While the rest of the team runs to the fire, Here plans. No fire, no danger. No fuel, no fire. No plants, no fuel. They'll rip up all the vegetation between the blaze and their home. Chip arrives first, dropping to his knees and tearing at the plants. If it's green, it's gotta go. Paul and Bibo join too, hurriedly cutting. Chip tries to lighten the mood, mentioning how their work is like shaving the ground's facial hair. Bibo frowns. The flames are coming ever closer. Grobby arrives, knowing something is terribly wrong. At a loss, she stamps her feet, grinding some grass into the dirt. Unknowingly, she is helping. Here addresses her. "I once saw a movie of an elephant blowing water out its snout. Can't you help? There's a river right there." Grobby stomps off, dismayed at Here's unrealistic expectations. Elephants believe disasters aren't the right time for humor. The fire grows, but still the four work, their fingers sore from the hasty plucking, nettles and all. Bibo retrieves the flammable logs. There's no sense in cutting them down if they'll be left behind for the fire to consume. Everyone focuses, silently laboring to save the base. And then, mercifully, it begins to rain lightly. One storm brought this terror, another will alleviate it. "Praise be," Here sighs. "Nature is again at peace," Bibo celebrates. "I'm Paul, rhymes with rainfall," Paul adds. Gromby eyes up the remaining fire. Of course she can move water with her trunk. She simply refuses to do so on command like some kind of circus animal. Her friends may burn to a crisp, but she'll still have her principles. Danger averted, everyone returns to their other jobs. There would be time to celebrate later, except that Bibo's still celebrating an earlier success. "Mr. Chip," he smiles bashfully, "would you prepare a bedroll for two?" Chip gasps. "Bibo, I knew there was a man underneath all that holiness." "Yes, yes," he continues. "Please take a part here in my sleeping bags. You'll need the materials for our extra large accommodation." Chip does as he's asked, delighted by his friend's happiness. It's almost enough to make Chip forget Bibo's earlier selfishness. One more night on the floor will be okay, provided Here and Bibo get to enjoy each other's company. With a little rearranging, Chip finds the perfect spot for the larger bedroll. He'll be giving up the little chip nook he's enjoyed since arriving, but he can sleep on the wood by the torch instead. Maybe its heat will be good for limiting his soreness from sleeping on the floor yet again. "What a happy day for us all," Chip thinks to himself. "I thought I'd just be fighting for survival, barely hanging on, but now I've got friends and food, and Jefferson's being so nice. She's even got a little nickname for me, Psychite. Weird name, but she seems really insistent about saying it every time I'm around. Anyway, this is all just great." Chip loves the idea of love. Such happy thoughts make the work go fast, and soon enough Chip's made Bibo's requested bedroll. Chip tells him, "It's done, for you and..." Bibo cuts him off. His ideology forbids sharing beds with anyone but a spouse. "The body becomes drunk with desire, unable to resist. But why did you have me make this larger bed?" "So that I am tested. She could be with me, but she will not be. She will slip against me in spirit, but not in flesh. I'll ask her to curl on the floor until we are truly united in marriage. Stupid, selfish Bibo. Here works angrily. Bibo's told her the news, and her confusion explodes in fury. She uses her lab notebook as a journal. Rocks are like men, thick. The ideal use of a crafted stone is to throw it at a turbaned head. She isn't making any breakthroughs today. Across the room, Bibo whispers loudly, "Come here, my dearest. Let me show you my hair as we rise above our body's temptations." Here passes Bibo silently. "Ah, words lead only to struggle. In peace we will unite our minds instead." Here would prefer to unite Bibo's mouth with some mortar. They sleep. As everyone snoozes, Bibo dreams of his religion, which guides him oh so well. It's the time of year for a celebration of all the good things. All he needs is a campfire and his friends. When morning comes, he sits at the research table and announces his intention. "Let us build a great fire outdoors. We will talk and play and send bright sky lanterns high above us." Chip replies first, "But it's raining. We'll be miserable." "No, we will appreciate all of nature's bounties, even the refreshing water." Next, here, "You're gonna start a wildfire, you clod." "Ah, beloved, the only fire here burns in my heart." Uninterested in listening to this debate, Chip gathers wood and heaps it into a pile. He strikes a spark and, despite the wetness, the wood catches quickly. In moments, the fire burns brightly, raindrops sizzling, and Bibo calls, "Come, all of you, let us rejoice in our friendship and in this world." This celebration has all the makings of an unforgettable affair. Grudgingly, the others emerge except Paul, who says he's excited to learn about other religions. And so they talk and dance, lost in the moment, briefly forgetting their cares and the earlier heartaches. Through the fire's glow, Hira and Bibo lock eyes. She mouths a single word, "Hey," and he smiles. Maybe they'll be okay after all. Knowing Paul's interest in other people's value structures, Chip turns to him. "Do you ever wonder why we're here at all?" That rhymes with Paul. Chip's face brightens, delighted to make a joke. Paul's eyes flash angry, and he balls his fists. "That's my joke. I'm Paul. Time to brawl." The two teenagers fall into a heap, punches flying wildly. Bibo says, "Ah yes, in all ways we celebrate, yes." Here isn't having it. "Young men, you're ruining a truly wonderful day." The combatants separate, each bruised but neither bloodied. They walk off together, half-hearted apologies exchanged, and Bibo says it's time to light their vessels. These will carry the bright flames into the wider world. It's a metaphor for something. Chip isn't really paying attention. He's tired and sad and wet. Despite his disappointment, he finishes his lantern along with the others. They all let go, oohing and eyeing as their fire flies, rising against the rain. Here speaks first. "Bibo, yours is the best. Chip, well, you could stand to learn." Enough. Suddenly he's on her, knocking her to the ground. "It was better here before you. We had each other." So much for loving love. Chip wails and weeps, punctuating his words with his fists. Here struggles, feebly trying to push him off. The others can only watch, mouths agape. Here strains, begging him to stop, but Chip doesn't hear. She wiggles out of his grasp and he panics, his teeth ripping into her abdomen. "Ow! What is wrong with you?" She kicks him in the chest, hard, and Chip falls back, panting, blood dribbling across his lips. As Here leaves the party to tend to herself, the other men gather in and talk. It's awkward. Really, what's there even to say? Paul makes fun of Chip's wounded honor, and Chip downplays what happened. "We can always find nature's balanced beauty, eh, Bibo?" Bibo isn't so sure. He announces the end of their celebration and sets to cleaning up, grimacing at all the blood. This outlaw fair was truly an unforgettable experience. At least someday it'll be a funny story. Their released lanterns continue higher, illuminating the dark sky. Elsewhere, someone notices. It's a young artist who recognizes the celebratory flames as being part of his religious tradition. We'll return to him in just a moment. Inside, conversation is muted, banal. No one wants to talk about Chip's fighting, but it's the only topic that occupies everyone's minds. They chat about trees and games, about a meal they once had, about a favorite song. Anything to fill the otherwise unbearable silence of their community's rupture. Chip excuses himself to go outside, claiming he's going to work. Hunched over a sprung trap, he cries, his tears lost in the rain. He's thought previously that everything hurts, but that was nothing compared to now. His body bruised, his ego crushed, his reputation marred. Chip, what have you become? He knows he needs to apologize, but that would hurt too. Sorry, Bibo, for ruining your celebration. Sorry, Paul, for stealing your joke. Sorry here for... where to even start? Chip continues working, refusing to go inside despite the rain. He needs to think of the future, of anything other than what's just happened. Okay, remember Paul's suggestion. Buildings, a wall. He imagines himself a little house, with an entryway, a wooden door, and an alcove for sleeping. It'd be warm and safe and his. And fine, Bibo needs a place to sleep too. A smaller room, a little prison. Paul begins to construct the buildings at once, perhaps an unspoken apology to Chip. Hours pass and the four continue to work, trying to stay busy even as the sky remains dark. Here's abdomen continues to ache, so she pulls aside her shirt and sees red streaks leading away from her bandaged wound. That means only one thing: infection. It's not so bad yet, but she knows how this will go without treatment. Stumbling inside, she gestures to her torso and asks Bibo for help. He tells her to go to their bedroll and prepares to care for her. The only question, what kind of medicine to use? The earlier visitors left the finest treatment, and here definitely deserves the best, but no. Bibo decides such an infection, caught at such an early stage, requires only a poultice. With a finishing touch, he bandages these herbs against her skin, hoping they soothe the pain and cleanse the bacteria. He decides he'll rest on the floor, watching over her. His only temptation tonight is utilizing that Glitterworld medicine. Eventually, Chip stumbles back indoors. His clothes are soaked through. After a day in the rain, he couldn't possibly be any wetter. Dripping water everywhere he goes, he finds some food and sits down with a squish. This draws Bibo's attention. He'd been resting his eyes. Now he whispers, "Mr. Chip, here's sick. It happened earlier." Chip's gaze falls to the table, and he breathes deeply. Bibo, I hurts. Bibo nods, gesturing to the bedroll. "Please join her. Tonight I'll look after you both." Chip crawls into the bedroll, feeling both resigned and helpless. Here stirs at the younger man's arrival. She pulls away from her attacker, but then, seeing his pitiful look, all his earlier aggression gone, she touches his boyish face. "Chip, you're gonna be all right." He could only hope she was right about that. With this episode complete, all that remains is the nearby artist. Does he find the source of those bright lanterns? He's guaranteed to be part of Bibo's ideologian, and budding artist means he'll have a +5 to his artistic skill. Past that, he's a blank canvas. Let me know whether we should help him find Chip's camp. As always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.